The first time an HOA tried to requisition my house, I laughed so hard I scared a squirrel off my railing the second time. They sent a sheriff, and by the end of the week, the woman running the whole circus was learning, very publicly, that you can't cosplay as government on somebody else's land. So yeah, apparently I'm the guy who lives on a mountain, writes travel essays for a living, and somehow became the villain in a neighborhood soap opera I never subscribed to. It started on a Friday that was so normal it almost hurts to remember. I'd been editing a piece for Sierra Bound Quarterly, coffee in hand, feet up on my deck. Watching those long gold shadows slide across the eastern slope like the sun was trying to tuck the whole ridge into bed. My place is 15 acres of quiet, a few hundred feet above the nearest paved road, wrapped in ponderosa pines and that kind of silence you can actually hear. No leaf blowers. No birthday party shrieking, no just a quick HOA meeting. Just wind, birds, and me minding my own business. Around 6, I drove down my gravel cut to the mailbox, expecting junk flyers and a utility bill I'd pretend not to see for a day, and there it was, this smooth cream-colored envelope with a gold insignia, like it was inviting me to a royal wedding, stamped, Summit Glade Estates Homeowners Association. I remember narrowing my eyes like the envelope had just winked at me. See, Summit Glade is the cookie-cutter mountaintop development that borders my property, the kind of place where every porch light matches, and the grass looks like it's been threatened into behaving. And when I bought my land, I checked everything twice. No covenants, no membership. No surprise committees policing my paint color. I chose this spot specifically because nobody could tell me what to do with it. So I opened the letter, because curiosity is a powerful drug, and right away it hits me with this polite little command dressed up as a memo. Please prepare your guest accommodations and landing area by tomorrow at 2 p.m. Our incoming delegation includes VIPs from the governor's office, and the California Environmental Council. Your property has been selected as the optimal hospitality site. I blinked, then I laughed again, but this time it was sharper, like my brain was trying to defend itself with humor. Guest accommodations landing area, buddy. The only landing area I have is a patch of dirt where deer occasionally land their feet. Then I flip it over, and there's a postscript in looping cursive. Of course there is. Call me if you have concerns. Karen Stample, HOA president, with her number like she's doing me a favor. I went inside, sat at my desk, and dialed, because in my experience, nonsense grows legs if you don't look it in the eye early. She picked up on the third ring, bright voice, practice smile you can hear through a phone. Karen speaking. Hi Karen, this is Michael Torrance, I said. I received a letter about hosting a VIP visit. There's got to be a mistake. I'm not part of Summit Glade. And she goes, oh, like I just told her I hate puppies. That's odd, your property borders Summit Glade, doesn't it? Yes, I said, borders not belongs. She didn't even flinch. She just slid into that syrupy tone certain people master when they've spent too long in charge of bake sales and budget votes. Well, we recently had a board vote unanimous given your property's location and visual appeal, and the governor's limited itinerary. It made sense to coordinate through you. We assumed you'd be honored. I'm not, I said. There was a pause, like her brain had to reboot because the honored button wasn't working. Mr. Torrance, she says, I don't think you understand we're dealing with an emergency hospitality scenario. Hotels are booked due to the wildfire conference. This is critical for green zoning policy. The delegation must be received properly. Your home is ideal. And that's the moment the air changed, because now she wasn't asking, she was assigning. Karen, I said slow, you're not hearing me. My home is not a hotel. It's not part of your HOA. You have no jurisdiction here. And she drops the smile into something colder, still polite, but with teeth. This isn't about jurisdiction, it's about community optics, and it would be regrettable if the HOA had to note your refusal in its upcoming community impact report. I swear, some people say community, the way other people say threat. So I told her crystal clear. There will be no guests, no catering, no landing pads, and if anyone steps onto my land tomorrow, they'll be met by security cameras, a locked gate, and the sheriff. She paused, then said, I see, we'll take that under advisement, and hung up like she'd just marked me down as difficult. I leaned back, exhaled, and did the first thing you learn to do if you've ever dealt with corporate crises or legal headaches. Document everything. I hit record on my desktop mic, said the date out loud, recapped the call, word for word as best I could. Because I had this feeling in my bones this wasn't going to be one weird letter and a funny story at the bar. That night I checked every camera, charged battery packs, bumped my perimeter alerts up, and slept the kind of sleep where you're technically unconscious, but your nervous system is still standing guard with a flashlight. At 7:30 the next morning, the mountain went from quiet to gravel crunching like somebody's dragging a secret up my driveway, and on my security feed I see a white catering van, a black utility truck, and a silver SUV rolling in like they're arriving to set up a wedding. The guy in the SUV is wearing a bright orange vest and waving like I'm supposed to come out holding a clipboard and a fake grin. I tapped the intercom, kept my voice flat, "State your purpose." He beams up at the camera, cheerful as a Labrador morning. "Sir, HOA sent us to start prep for today's visit. We're with Sierra Lead Events. Got your service order right here. Tent, catering rig, mobile restroom. Trailer should be out of your way by noon." "No one authorized this," I said. "You're trespassing, leave now." His grin twitched, like a mask slipping. Sir, this was cleared by Summit Glade. We were told your property was requisitioned for a special event. Governor's team, emergency logistics." Of course they went full Broadway with it. I unlocked the outer gate. Not to let them in, but because I wanted this in real life, on camera. With my boots in the dirt, I walked down in jeans and a black t-shirt that says "Not my problem" in big white letters, because sometimes you've got to communicate in fonts. The vest guy holds out a laminated work order like it's a passport. "Sir, I don't want trouble. This is just a gig. They said it was cleared." I looked at the paper. It had my address, but my name was replaced with Glade Hospitality House. No signature, no legal stamp, just bullet points for tent dimensions and a catering schedule, like somebody wrote it in 10 minutes while feeling very proud of themselves. I handed it back and said, loud enough for the whole crew, "This is fabricated. You were lied to. You have 90 seconds to turn this convoy around, or I'm calling the sheriff and logging this as organized trespass." That word, organized, changes people's posture real fast. The crew froze, one guy mid-unload with folding tables, another staring at a flat patch of ground like he was picturing a helicopter landing, and then they scrambled, embarrassed more than angry. They did a messy three-point turn, gravel spraying, and disappeared down my switchbacks. For a few minutes, the mountain went quiet again, and I almost believed that a firm no plus the law would be enough. Then at 10, Karen showed up herself. Matte gray Audi, 2 passengers. She stepped out like she was walking a red carpet, heels clicking on the asphalt, and she calls through the bars of my gate. "Michael, we need to have a conversation." "I already told your contractors to leave." I said, "You're not welcome here." She holds up this thick cream paper with a wax stamp and a heading that screams, "We printed this at Office Depot and felt powerful doing it. Community Rights and Access Memorandum, 1992. My internal alarm started doing cartwheels. She slides it through the gate bars like it's holy scripture. "This is the founding agreement for the Summit Glade District in cases of civic emergency. Bordering properties may be used for community needs, including dignitary hosting and environmental inspection staging." I skimmed it, looked for real signatures, 3 printed names, not notarized, vague language you could drive a parade through if you were willing to hallucinate hard enough. "You know this isn't real," I said. "This isn't even notarized. You doctored this, or someone did. Either way, it has 0 standing." Karen smiles without moving her eyes. "Refusal may be escalated to county mediation. You've left us no choice." That's when my patience snapped in a calm, surgical way. I tore the paper in half, then quarters, then again, and let the pieces flutter down between us like autumn leaves. "Your choices," I said, "do not exist here." One of her passengers, balding guy with a clipboard, touched her arm and murmured, "Karen, maybe we should regroup." And for the first time I saw her hesitate, face twitching between rage and calculation. They drove off, and I stood there until the Audi vanished, then went inside, saved the footage, and called the sheriff's office to file a formal incident report, because I've learned the hard way: if you don't build a paper trail, someone else will build one for you, and theirs will be made of lies. Mid-afternoon, I'm reviewing camera angles when I hear heavier tires, not HOA tires. Government suspension tires. I pull up the feed and see a marked county sheriff cruiser. 2 deputies step out, one young guy I don't know, stiff and by the book, the other one I do know, unfortunately, Sergeant Bill Maroro, mid-50s, barrel chest, and if memory serves, a Summit Glade resident who thinks tactical sunglasses count as a personality. He walks up with that slow smile you see on someone tightening a vise. "Afternoon. Michael got a call, reports of obstruction. Public disturbance, thought we'd clear things up." "Obstruction of what?" I asked. He gestures vaguely, like the air itself is evidence. Some confusion over a community coordination event. "Folks are concerned you're being uncooperative." "I'm not part of their community," I said. and they know that they forged paperwork they tried to stage an event on my land. He chuckles low, paternal. Come on, Mike, do we really want to escalate this? The governor's team is due in a few hours. Nobody's asking you to roll out the red carpet. Just let them use the lot. Maybe 1 or 2 staff freshen up, be neighborly. And that right there, be neighborly, is how people disguise coercion as kindness. So I looked him dead on and said, is that an official request? Do you have a warrant, a court order, anything beyond hearsay from a suburban committee? The younger deputy shifted like his shoes suddenly didn't fit. Maroro's smile thinned. No, nothing formal, just a friendly ask, better to smooth it over than let it get complicated. It's already complicated, I said. They dragged in law enforcement to lean on me. That's not smoothing, that's coercion. He starts talking about optics, crowd control, press the usual fog machine, and I cut through it. I'm asking once on record, lawful visit or courtesy call. He frowns. Courtesy. Great, I said. Then I decline your courtesy. I've filed incident reports. My attorney has copies of the video, and the next time someone steps on my property, I won't be polite about it. He stared for a long beat, then turned and walked back to his cruiser like a man who didn't expect to be told no, without consequences, but he didn't have consequences to hand me, so he left. 15 minutes later, motion alert, this time, a local news van, Channel 8, parked outside my gate. A reporter rehearsing a little monologue about a rural property owner defying public interest, like I was hoarding water during a drought. I didn't go out, I just recorded everything, called Julia, my attorney, and forwarded her the reporter's name, because I could smell the next play coming. Julia pulled county records that night like she was flipping cards in a casino. Your property is clean, she told me over the phone. Not only are you outside the HOA, you were deliberately excluded when they expanded in '02. There's an annotation, private reserve. No access permitted under HOA domain. They knew, Karen knew she's bluffing. I figured, I said, but now they sent a sheriff. Julia went quiet for a second, then her voice sharpened. Time to up the ante, cease and desist to the HOA board. Complaint to the DA about misuse of emergency services, and we prep a press packet. But not for the clowns who showed up today. We wait, let them dig deeper, the bigger the hole. The cleaner the victory. The next morning, my system pinged at 3:51 a.m. I pull up the footage, and there's a figure in dark clothes at my south gate, testing the latch, looking around, then slipping into the woods, and the camera catches a Summit Glade badge on their windbreaker, like a little signature of stupidity. I sent it to Julia. She replied in 10 minutes. Perfect, that's our trespass attempt we filed today. By noon, there's a formal complaint at the county prosecutor's office. Trespass, forged documents, harassment, abuse of process, and while Julia lit the legal fuse, I did what I do when I'm angry and focused, edit. I compiled footage of the catering convoy, Karen's fake memo, Maroro's courtesy, the midnight prowler timestamps, property coordinates, clean voiceover, no theatrics, just facts. I posted it online with a title that basically said, they tried to seize my home for the governor's visit. I said no. 3 hours later it was everywhere. The internet has a special appetite for HOA overreach, apparently. My inbox turned into a wildfire, comments, shares, people telling me their own horror stories, a retired judge casually dropping, that memo wouldn't survive a mock trial, like he was seasoning a steak. Then, twist number 1, an anonymous email lands with a Google Drive link, no message, just a subject line. You should see this. I opened it in a lockdown environment because I'm paranoid, not stupid. Inside were screenshots, internal HOA emails, Slack logs, meeting notes, and there it was, Karen writing months earlier. If we can get Torrance on board one time. He's stuck. Implied consent sets precedent, then we enforce next year. Another board member. Should we run it past zoning? Karen. Don't ask, presented as already arranged, keeps him off balance. That's not community, that's a land grab. With a smile. I forwarded everything to Julia and she texted back, this is gold coordinated fraud, and I just found their insurance provider. Time to make them squirm. Then, twist number 2, the kind you don't plan. A kid named Dylan shows up at my gate, mid-20s, nervous, clutching a folder like it's radioactive. Please don't film me, he says through the intercom. I live in Summit Glade, lot 22. You're not the first one they tried this with. I let him in, and he hands me evidence, photos, correspondence, a sworn affidavit, 3 other border properties, all outside HOA maps, all pressured. 2 owners caved. 1 family moved out, and the 3rd fought back until their permits started mysteriously getting delayed. Turns out the zoning chair was Karen's cousin. Suddenly my story wasn't a weird letter, it was a pattern. The next day, A major paper ran with it, and Summit Glade went from nice mountain neighborhood to national punchline. Their website crashed. Their Facebook got flooded with memes, and Karen's little empire started wobbling. And when they ran out of polite threats, they tried bureaucracy. Code enforcement shows up with an administrative inspection order based on environmental complaints, basically accusing me of everything short of poisoning the watershed with my morning coffee. I could have fought it at the gate, but I knew bait when I smelled it, so I let them inspect, camera rolling, calm, cooperative. They found nothing because there was nothing to find, and that clean inspection report became another brick in the wall building around Karen's neck. Then, right when I thought I'd seen every angle of petty power, a black SUV rolls up, and a man in a blue sport coat speaks into my intercom. "Mr. Torrance, I'm with the governor's office. Off the record, I need to verify something." I buzzed him in. We sat on my porch, and I handed him the forged memo. He read it, winced, and whispered, "Jesus Christ." And then he says the line that made the whole house feel lighter. There was never any plan to use private housing. The governor's visit logistics were handled through a state-run lodge north of the county line. Karen had offered herself, got told no, and then fabricated the rest like she could manifest reality with letterhead. He apologized on behalf of the office, asked if I'd clarify publicly that the governor wasn't involved. I agreed, because I'm stubborn, not reckless. From there it moved fast. Julia filed the full civil suit: fraudulent misrepresentation, harassment, abuse of process, defamation. Subpoenas hit HOA records like a wrecking ball, and that's when the money trail showed. Karen billing the HOA's Community Events Fund for legal consults, PR sessions, and my personal favorite, a landscaping invoice for governor-appropriate visual buffers on a property she did not own. Residents panicked, board members started turning on each other, and in an emergency meeting, audio leaked, of course. An older woman on the board finally said out loud what everyone had been swallowing. "Karen, you told us the governor was coming. You swore the house was cleared. You lied." By the next morning, half the board resigned. A judge froze their discretionary accounts and appointed an auditor. The sheriff's department opened an investigation into the forged memo, and Sergeant Maroro, my courtesy call buddy, got quietly placed on leave when internal complaints surfaced that he'd been coordinating with HOA folks off the books. And then came the hearing. Packed courtroom, cameras outside, Karen flanked by attorneys who looked like they'd been briefed over caffeine, and regret Julia slides in a supplemental brief. Dozens of pages, forensic metadata tying the forged document back to Karen's laptop. A timeline so clean it could have been used as a ruler. The judge asks Karen point blank if she denies authoring or distributing the false document. She opens her mouth, closes it, whispers to her lawyer. And her lawyer stands and says, "At this time, Your Honor, the defendant invokes her Fifth Amendment right." Checkmate. Not flashy, not loud, just that quiet snap of a trap closing. A few days later, the final blow didn't come with sirens. It came with paperwork. The DA filed charges: felony fraud, tampering with a government document, criminal misuse of emergency services, plus harassment. Karen got arrested at home, in her garage, where she'd been running the HOA office. Which is honestly poetic in a way I'm not sure the universe intended, but I'll take it. The HOA got placed under oversight, assets frozen, formal apology issued by court order, and the civil suit settled fast. Damages, fees, public retractions. I used part of it to rebuild my gate into a matte black wall of reinforced steel with sensors and a keypad, and a small etched plate that reads, "Private Mountain Estate, not a damn hotel. Trespassers will be prosecuted." Here's the part that stuck with me, though. After the adrenaline, after the headlines, after the justice served satisfaction wore off a little, I kept thinking about how easy it was for Karen to almost win, not because she had the law, but because she had confidence, connections, and the ability to say insane things with a straight face. She wrapped greed in the word community, dressed coercion up as neighborly, and tried to turn the system, cops, inspectors, media, into a weapon, all because she assumed most people would fold to avoid stress. And that's the ugly truth. Power doesn't always look like a judge's robe or a badge. Sometimes it looks like a smiling woman with a wax-stamped memo and a little group chat full of people telling each other they're doing the right thing. In the end, I kept my land. Karen lost her freedom for a while, and Summit Glade learned, painfully, that karma doesn't care how nice your landscaping looks. But I'll leave you with a question that still messes with me: if someone uses the community as an excuse to cross your boundaries, legal, personal, physical, how far is too far before your standing your ground turns into becoming the villain in their story? And does that even matter when you're the one being targeted? Drop your take in the comments. Was I right to go scorched earth on paperwork and publicity, or should I have handled it quietly? And if you've ever dealt with an HOA, a power-tripping neighbor, or some bureaucratic retaliation, tell me what happened, because I swear the more stories people share, the harder it gets for folks like Karen to pull this kind of stunt in the dark.